The lumen flickers again. That same sickly pall of recycled air carries the tang of rust and oil, and beneath it, the faint sweetness of decay. I taste it each time I breathe, the flavor of a dying manufacturing world. My laser gun is warm against my palms, slick with sweat, though I don't remember firing it. The Vox still crackles with distant screams. But the Emperor's name is gone from their lips. It has been replaced by something older. Something that hums through the marrow when the light fails. Once I was a man who prayed to Terra and the Golden Throne. Now I pray only that my own breath will not draw the attention of the thing that crawls behind my thoughts. If this transmission finds another soul still awake within the void, record this litany, not as confession, as proof. The descent of a man who once bore the Aquila and now bears only its shadow. By the static flame of the lumen and the whisper of circuits still loyal, I send this vox to the dark. If you hear it, carry my words onward. Let the signal live that memory may not die. The dust never settles here. It breathes with the wind, curls like smoke around the dead manufactorums, and clings to the skin like judgment. Each step I take leaves no print, as though the world itself is trying to forget we ever walked upon it. My rebreather hums against my face. The filters long past regulation standards. The inside of the mask slick with my own breath. I can taste the metal tang of recycled air and burnt promethium on my tongue, a flavor that has become the definition of existence. We were the 812th Cadian, or something like it. The numbers have blurred since the last transmission from command ceased. I remember the color of our banners, the green of ash-choked forests that no longer exist, and the way the Aquila once gleamed on my flak armor before the dust dulled it into a smear of gray. What I cannot remember is the last time I heard a priest's voice that wasn't trembling. The sky has been red for days. We tell ourselves it's atmospheric burn-off from the orbital bombardment, but none of us truly believe that anymore. The light feels wrong, thicker, as though the air itself is infected. Each dawn drags its carcass across the horizon, and the shadows that follow it are slow to retreat, as if reluctant to leave. I keep the laser gun cradled in my arms like an infant, not out of love, but ritual. There's a comfort in the familiar weight, the worn ceramide of the grip molded by my hand over years of identical drills. The others do the same. We polish the weapon more often than we clean ourselves. The rites of maintenance are the last fragments of faith we can still recite without doubt. When the Vox went silent, some of the men thought it was a mercy. No more orders to die, no more sermons about sacrifice, just the wind and the endless hum of distant machinery, the ruins of the manufactorum still ticking like a heart that refuses to stop beating. But for me, the silence was unbearable. It wasn't the absence of command that broke me. It was the realization that no one was listening anymore. I found a data slate once, half buried beneath the rubble near the old command post. Its casing was scorched, its screen fractured, but the machine spirit still flickered weakly when coaxed with a few whispered litanies. On it was a single log entry, time-stamped weeks before the bombardment began. It spoke of reassignment orders, a promise of evacuation. The file ended mid-sentence, as though the scribe had been interrupted by the sky collapsing. I watched the message loop again and again until the power cell died. I think I was trying to memorize the sound of a human voice before it faded forever. At night, we gather around what passes for a fire, burnt promethium leaking from shattered drums, and stare at one another through the amber glow. Our faces have become masks, each with the same hollow eyes and soot-streaked skin. We don't use names anymore. Names make things too heavy, too real. We've reduced ourselves to functions, marks on armor plates, rifleman, scout, watch. I think my name was Istrin once. I still whisper it sometimes just to see if it sounds true. Yesterday, one of the younger troopers walked out beyond the perimeter without his mask. Said he wanted to feel the wind on his face one last time. We watched from a distance as his skin blistered in the chemical air. He didn't scream, just looked up at the red sky, smiled, and fell. None of us moved to retrieve the body. The wind buried him within the hour, and by dusk there was no sign he'd ever existed. I sometimes wonder if that was freedom. There's a rumor, there's always a rumor, that supply will come soon. That the Astra Militarum never abandons its sons, but even the old sergeant no longer repeats that line with conviction. His voice has the cadence of someone performing an autopsy on belief. The Vox occasionally crackles with interference, just enough to remind us of the Emperor's supposed watchful gaze. But I think even the machine spirits have forgotten the proper prayers. In the endless night of this red world, time is fluid. We measure it not by sunrises but by how long it takes for the promethium drums to empty. We ration thoughts the way we ration food. Some of us still pray, but our words are quiet, mumbled, more habit than hope. The litanies no longer sound like pleas, they sound like apologies. A week ago, though it might have been longer, we heard the sound of artillery from the northern ridge. Distant, methodical, too regular to be random collapse. Someone out there is still fighting, or pretending to. We tried to send a return signal, but the Vox only screamed static back at us. Still, the sound gave us purpose. We began to move again, slowly, cautiously, through the ruins of our own camp. The machines watched us, servo skulls long abandoned by their masters drifting overhead like forgotten angels, their optics glowing faintly through the dust. One of them hovered close enough for me to see the sigil etched upon its brow, the faded Aquila. For a moment my breath caught. It felt like a sign. I reached out, whispering the catechism of recognition, but the servo skull's lens dilated, flickered, and emitted a distorted burst of Vox noise that almost sounded like laughter before vanishing into the haze. That night, I dreamed of the Emperor. Not the radiant god of marble reliefs and shrine world tapestries, but a corpse on a throne of rusted wires and flickering tubes. He looked at me with empty sockets, and in that silence I heard my own voice echoing back. You were never meant to be saved. When I woke, my hands were trembling. The lumen beside my cot pulsed erratically, its faint hum matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. That sound, the hum, it's become my measure of sanity. Whenever I lose track of myself, I listen for it. If I can still hear it, I know I'm still real. But tonight, the lumen hum changed. It deepened almost imperceptibly into a tone that felt alive, like something breathing through the circuits. I know how madness spreads here. Whispers in static, shapes in the fog. But part of me wanted to believe. Because belief, even twisted, is better than nothing. The others are asleep now. The fire's gone cold. I can still taste dust in my mouth, sharp as glass. I don't know if tomorrow will come, or if we've already passed into some forgotten corner of the warp where time has no meaning. The hum continues, and it's whispering my name. The whisper becomes a patience test, the sort of drill Abbott might use to break a recruit, slight variations on a single tone, a needle sliding across the same groove until the groove becomes a trench. I sit up, pull the rebreather off just enough to breathe the room's stale breath, and the taste of rust greets me like a familiar sin. The promethium drum we used for warmth is a black-ringed mouth gone dry. I can hear Karsk, our senior sergeant, grinding his teeth in sleep. The sound is as regular as a metronome and far more honest than prayer. I whisper the litany for restful circuits at the lumen's base and press my thumb against the casing. The heat is faint and I can feel the tremor in my hand. I don't know if it's hunger or fear. Either is reasonable. Before dawn's red heft drags itself over the skyline, Karsk rasps the word we all live by, move. He doesn't look at me, just gestures with 2 fingers toward the northern ridge where the supposed artillery sang its gray hymn a week ago. We pack in silence, I check the power pack of my laser gun and kiss it out of habit, then wipe my mouth in shame, hoping no one saw. The habit hurts more than the hunger. We cut through the skeletal aisles of a manufactorum whose line servitors still twitch in their harnesses. Their eyes are milk white behind cracked lenses, jaws gnawing ghostwork, arms rising and falling like tired pistons. One of them keeps punching its tools into a phantom component that clack, clack, clack like a prayer wheel too faithful to stop. I catch myself murmuring a benediction for machine spirits and then stop halfway, as if the syllables might catch in the air and snag something listening. Karsk spits once, a dark fleck that evaporates before it lands. No ghosts, he says. Only us. The aisle opens into a yard where a macro press has torn itself free of its moorings and lies like a slain beast, cables coiling from its belly. The air is warmer here and it smells of cooked insulation. I kneel to examine a track, boot prints shallow, recent enough that the ash still sloughs from the edges. Not ours, not Astartes, too narrow. Not Skitarii, the stride is wrong. Civilian, maybe, but no civilian lives this far from a ration source. I sign a warning with my offhand. Karsk nods and splits us across the yard, rifles up, every movement careful, practiced, meaningless without the context of a larger plan. We find the Vox source behind a collapsed gantry, half swallowed by slagged plating. A Mechanicus console clings to life there, wrapped in the desiccated embrace of a tech priest who died still plugged into his altar, mechadendrites stiff as ropes of iron. His Vox grill is a melted grin. The console whispers in crippled Benharic, stuttering out a loop that isn't quite language anymore. Beside him lies a Skitarii ranger, face gone, augmetic stripped by scavengers. The ranger's galvanic rifle is intact, sanctified runes intact. A tiny spark of machine grace still tick-tick-ticking in its heart. I hover a hand over it and feel heat, a heartbeat's throb, the suggestion of a will that could be coaxed to purr if I found the right words. Karsk watches me. He has a face made for orders, broad, scar-stitched eyes like nails hammered flush with the board. Leave it, he says, but there's no heat in it. It's ritual, that warning. We both know what we are now. I slip the rifle's spirit cell free and pocket it. Not theft, I tell myself. Insurance. The data slate in my pack presses into my spine as I stand. It's dead weight, but I carry it like a relic. If I let it go, the last true voice on this world goes with it. We try the console, only because doing nothing feels like kneeling to a grave and pretending it will answer. The Benharic loop flutters, hiccups, and resolves into a desperate fragment of low Gothic. It is not a prayer. It is a list of numbers. Logistics, units, Prometheum yields, a map of ration routes long since eaten by fire. Then a single sentence, clear, unmistakable, as if the spirit gathered itself for one last human thought. The line will hold. It repeats once, weaker, and dies. I look at Karsk. He stares past me at the horizon, red light cutting his profile into a hard icon. He was graven by the same hands that carved Cadian bastions, and I want to hate the ease with which his silhouette promises meaning. The line will hold, he says softly. He doesn't sound convinced. He sounds hungry. We push on toward the ridge. The hum of the lumen rides with me in memory. A hush thread I cannot cut. Even in the open air I hear it, pulsing between the breaths of our squad. The ground pitches into old trench work, the edges sagging where the soil is slick with chemical seep. The smell here is heavier, a cloak of sweet rot soaked with copper. I swallow and taste iron as if my gums bleed without permission. Karsk signals a halt, crouches, and drags a glove along the trench wall. His fingers come away black. Prometheum bloom, he says. No flame. We crest the ridge on our bellies. The sound I'd named artillery reveals itself as something else. A manufactorum stamping line still alive in a crater below, each press blow striking a thunder note. each release venting a breath like a wounded animal. There are figures moving between the fractured carapace plates and dangling conveyors. They move with the careful thrift of starving men. I count 8. No insignia. Their weapons are a handful of battered autoguns. One lascarbine, knives cut from habdors. Civilians, yes, or what's left when the Munitorum forgets to count you. Karsk studies them through a cracked monocular. He doesn't say we could take them. He doesn't have to. We need food. We need filters. We need anything. Every thought is a ledger now, and every ledger bleeds. Below us, one of the men tilts his head, listening to something I cannot hear. He taps the side of his skull as if coaxing a stubborn vox bead, then points directly toward our ridge. I freeze. Karsk's hand finds my collar and drags me backward into the trench. We wait. The stamping line hammers time into our nerves. No shots come. No footsteps. I dare a glance. The men below have not moved. They simply stand staring at our hill, as if they can see through ash and rock and fear. One of them raises a hand, palm out, a benediction or a warning. The gesture is too precise to be chance. My mouth is dry. I whispered, "Do we talk?" My voice doesn't sound like mine. Karsk answers without looking at me. We never talk first. He signals right flank advance. 2 troopers slip like shadows along the trench, rise and begin a glass-footed descent. The figures below do not react. The stamping line drops another iron foot. The crater coughs heat, and in that heat the air shimmers. For an instant I think I see an aquila marked on the nearest man's chest in ash, as if pressed there by invisible hands. I blink and it is gone. We move as one. We are not a regiment anymore, but the body remembers being many. The descent is a liturgy of posture and breath and trigger discipline. I draw a bead on the man who raised his hand. He lowers it slowly, as if testing the weight of his own arm, and then he smiles. The smile has too many meanings. We close to shouting distance. Karsk lifts his hand, palm up, the old sign for parley. The man with the many-meaning smile nods once. His head twitches infinitesimal, as if something within is answering him. When he speaks, his voice carries without effort, slipping neatly through the red wind like a knife in cloth. "You are late," he says. And though he faces Karsk, his eyes find me. I feel the lumen hum inside my chest resolve into a single, sustained note. Not a whisper now. A held breath. The world holds its breath. Even the wind seems to pause as the man's words hang in the air between us. "You are late." For a heartbeat, I wonder if he is speaking to someone else, to ghosts, to the Emperor himself. Then his eyes, fever-bright beneath the grime, focus on me again, and I know the answer. My finger hovers over the trigger. Karsk does not lower his weapon. None of us do. The man smiles wider, slow as corrosion. His skin is pale beneath the red light, stretched thin across the bones, and something about the way he tilts his head makes my stomach twist. Not fear exactly, recognition. The same shape of weariness carved into a different body. He wears an imperial flak vest, stripped of insignia, the aquila clawed off but still faintly visible beneath the scratches. The faint outline glimmers when the manufactorum fires flare behind him, and I can't look away. Karsk takes one step forward, boots crunching on the ash. "Identify yourself," he calls out. His voice is rough but steady. It sounds almost like the old days when orders still had purpose. "What unit? Who commands you?" The man tilts his head the other way like he's listening to an invisible interlocutor. "Command," he echoes as if testing the word on his tongue. Then he laughs, softly at first, then louder, until the sound spills out into the crater like oil on water. The others around him begin to laugh as well, a hollow, uncoordinated chorus. The manufactorum's rhythmic hammering swallows their laughter until it sounds like part of the machine. Karsk stiffens. "Hold formation." His voice cuts through the air like the crack of a whip. The laughter dies all at once, as if snuffed out by an unseen hand. Then the man speaks again. No one commands us now, not since the light went out. The words hit me harder than they should. I open my mouth, then close it again. He could mean the bombardment, the end of supply, the failure of the Vox. Or something else entirely, something deeper. I can't tell. I think of the lumen hum that's followed me since last night. The strange tone that seemed to breathe my name, and for the first time, I feel that same vibration rising through the ground beneath my boots. We're not enemies, I managed to say, before Karsk can silence me. We're survivors. The man looks at me with something like pity. We were survivors once too. The hammer strikes again, a pulse of noise that rattles the slag walls. In its wake, the man raises his weapon, an old autogun patched together with wire and prayer strip bindings, and points it skyward. For a moment I think it's a salute, then the muzzle flashes, a short burst into the air, and the sound echoes against the ridge like a signal. Shapes move in the smoke. They emerge from behind the wrecked conveyors, figures in tattered uniforms, dozens of them. Some wear flak armor, others scavenged plate or bearskin painted with the black slurry of promethium soot. None bear insignia. Their faces are all the same expression, calm, almost serene, as though they have already answered whatever question the universe demanded of them. Back. Karsk roars. Fall back to cover. We open fire. Last bolts slice through the haze, red beams crossing the red sky, indistinguishable from the world's own color. The first rank of figures falls, but they don't scream. They simply fold, like paper burned along the edge, and keep crawling forward even as their bodies come apart. One reaches the base of the ridge before I realize what I'm seeing. His mouth is open, but there's no sound. Only the same low hum that fills my skull. It's not the lumen anymore. It's them. The sound is coming from them. I fire again and again until the power pack clicks dry. The figure's chest is a ruin, smoke pouring from the hole, but he still climbs. The hum grows louder. Behind him the others advance in a perfect rhythm now. Step, hum, until it feels like the ground itself is chanting. Karsk grabs my shoulder, shoves me backward. Retreat to the trench. We slide down the slope, firing as we go. The trooper beside me catches a round through the visor and collapses. The smell of scorched plastisteel fills the air, sharp and acrid. I stumble over him but don't stop. There's no time. Karsk is shouting orders into a dead Vox, voice dissolving into static. The trench swallows us in shadow. I crouch against the wall, reloading, heart hammering so hard I can barely keep my hands steady. The hum is in my skull now, vibrating behind my eyes. I can taste it, a copper sweetness that feels like blood. I press the rebreather tight against my face, but it doesn't help. Karsk leans against the opposite wall, breathing hard. They're not right, he mutters. They should have fallen. I nod, but the words barely register. Something's changing in the air. The vibration in the ground deepens until it becomes almost melodic, a single note that bends upward, forming a chord that's not meant for human throats. I risk a glance over the trench lip. The figures have stopped advancing. They stand motionless now, forming a loose semicircle around the base of the ridge. Their eyes, though still intact, glow faintly with reflected firelight. Then, as one, they raise their weapons high and begin to strike the butts against the ground in perfect rhythm. The sound merges with the hum, forming a pulse that seems to sync with my heartbeat. The air tastes electric. I can feel the fillings in my teeth vibrate. The man who first spoke steps forward again, his body limned in the flickering red light. You should have come sooner, he says, before the silence found us. And before I can ask what silence he means, the manufactorum behind him groans, the stamping line halting mid-strike. The sky above shifts like metal under strain, and a sound rises from every direction at once, a shriek so high it splits thought itself. I drop to my knees, palms over my ears. eyes squeezed shut. Through the ringing, through the blood pounding in my head, I hear the man's voice again, closer now, almost kind. Welcome home, brother. The air tastes of iron and fire. When I open my eyes again, dawn has already scorched the horizon, a dull ember through the smog. The trench is half collapsed, slick with oil and blood. The bodies of the fallen tangled in a grotesque tableau of devotion and decay. I don't remember losing consciousness, only the ringing that still clings to the inside of my skull like static. The hum has changed again, fainter now but persistent, a residue of something that refuses to die. Karsk is gone. His helmet lies near the lip of the trench, visor shattered, one side smeared black with dried blood. There are no footprints leading away, only the drag marks of something heavy pulled through the ash. I search for him at first, calling his name under my breath, but the sound feels obscene in the stillness. Nothing answers. Not the wind, not the machine spirits, not even the hum. When I finally climb out, the ridge is empty. The figures from last night have vanished, leaving only the smell of burned ozone and the faint chemical sweetness of vaporized flesh. The manufactorum below has gone silent, its stamping line frozen mid-motion, one colossal press suspended like a guillotine. I can see shapes hanging from the conveyor belts, bodies stripped of armor, suspended by the ankles. Their skin has turned the same shade as the dust. For a moment I think they're statues, some grotesque memorial to those who refuse the Emperor's grace. Then one of them twitches. The movement is slight, just the jerk of a hand or a muscle contracting under chemical rot. But it's enough to send me backward, stumbling down the slope. My boot catches on a chunk of twisted ceramite and I fall hard, the impact driving the breath from my lungs. The smell hits me then, promethium, thick and sweet, leaking from ruptured drums at the base of the ridge. It clings to everything, coats the tongue and the inside of the throat. Every breath feels like inhaling fire. The spill pools in black mirrors across the crater floor, reflecting the red sky and sickly rippling light. I push myself to my feet, swaying, and realize my lasgun is gone. The trench, Karsk, my squad, everything is gone. All that remains is the whisper of the wind across the slag and that faint, metallic hum, distant but familiar, calling me forward. I don't remember deciding to walk. My body simply moves. The crater stretches ahead, a graveyard of machines, each one rusted and half swallowed by the earth. The air crackles with static discharge from the promethium fumes, faint arcs of blue light dancing between the twisted frames. I hear faint clicks, servo motors attempting to restart perhaps, but no life follows. Halfway across the crater I find the first body that isn't a corpse. A trooper in half-melted flak armor, propped against a shattered crate, his face hidden by a scorched rebreather. I kneel beside him, check the pulse out of habit, though I know what I'll find. Nothing. His hands, however, are clasped tight around something, a charm or a relic. I pry his fingers open, and there, blackened but intact, lies a small metal aquila. Its wings are warped, one half melted into the other as if it's folding into itself. When I touch it, the hum flares, sharp and immediate, like the note of a bell struck too close to the ear. My vision swims. For an instant, I'm no longer in the crater. I'm standing in a cathedral of golden shadow, endless columns rising into darkness. Choirs sing a hymn I cannot name, but I know it's meant for the Emperor. The air tastes of ozone and incense. Then through the haze I see movement. Figures in armor the color of sunlight, the custodian guard, their halberds raised in silent judgment. One turns his helm toward me, and in the reflection of his visor I see myself kneeling. Not as I am now, but in full uniform, unbroken, face unscarred, eyes clear. He speaks, but I cannot hear the words. His mouth doesn't move, yet I feel the phrase vibrate through my bones. You were loyal once. Then the vision shatters. The crater floods back, the red sky pressing down like a hand on my throat. I drop the Aquila. It hits the ground with a hollow clink and the hum subsides into silence. My hands are shaking. The air feels heavier now, charged with something unseen. There's movement near the edge of the crater. I raise my head, squinting through the haze. 3 figures emerge from behind a collapsed conveyor tower. 2 troopers and a priest by the look of his tattered robes. They move carefully, weapons drawn, scanning the ruins. When they spot me, one of the troopers raises his rifle but doesn't fire. The priest gestures for calm. Hold your fire, he calls out, voice hoarse but firm. Identify yourself. I hesitate. The words stick in my throat. For the first time I realize I don't know what to say. Istrin, I manage finally.
Katie and 812.
Second platoon. The priest exchanges a glance with the trooper beside him. There is no 812 anymore, he says quietly. Not since the fall. The trooper lowers his weapon. If he's still breathing, he's one of us now. They approach slowly, eyes wary, scanning the horizon as though expecting something to rise from the pools of promethium. The priest stops a few paces from me. His robes are stained with oil and soot. The Aquila around his neck cracked down the middle. He studies my face and I feel as though he's peering straight through me. You've heard it, haven't you? He asks softly. The voice in the hum, I don't answer. I don't need to. His faint, knowing smile is enough. Then you've already begun to change. The smell of promethium grows stronger, almost suffocating now. Behind him, the pools begin to ripple as though stirred by something beneath the surface. The surface of the promethium shivers again, sending concentric rings of oily reflection outward. Each ripple distorts the light, bending it into shapes that feel almost deliberate. Geometric for an instant, then collapsing into chaos. The priest kneels near the edge, his head bowed, muttering words too low to hear. His voice has the tone of someone trying to negotiate with a god that may or may not exist. The troopers fan out to secure the area, rifles raised. They move with the uneasy precision of soldiers who have survived too much to believe survival is a blessing. I stand there watching and the hum stirs again, faint but definite, resonating through the soles of my boots. You should step back, one of the troopers mutters, a scarred woman with a bandaged jaw. The fumes'll rot your lungs, I don't move. What are you looking for? She doesn't answer right away. The other trooper, a younger man with hollow eyes, glances at her, then at the priest. Signs, he says finally. Or proof. Depends which he finds first. The priest rises, his hand slick with the black sheen of fuel. It is not proof we seek, he says without turning. It is memory. This world remembers what the Imperium forgets. Something stirs in the pools again, and this time I hear it. A low vibration, not quite a sound, more like pressure against the skull. The ripples converge at a single point near the center, where the reflection twists into a vertical smear of light, impossible and real all at once. I take a step closer before I realize I'm doing it. The priest spreads his arms, robes dripping with fuel. Do you see, Guardsman? The Emperor's flame may fade, but the warp remembers every spark. Even ours. At the word warp, my stomach tightens. I've heard stories whispered across barracks fires, the kind the commissars used to silence with a shot. But the priest's eyes are bright, unafraid, and the troopers around him don't flinch. They've already passed some threshold I can't yet name. The light flickers, and for a heartbeat I see shapes in it. Faces, perhaps, pressed against the surface from beneath. Their mouths open and close in silent rhythm, each exhalation bubbling the promethium into delicate black petals. Then the faces dissolve. The air crackles. The priest turns to me. You heard it before, didn't you? In the machines. In the light, I nod once. There's no point in denying it. The hum has lived in me since the ridge. It feels less like a sound and more like something nested in the hollow between heartbeat and thought. It is not corruption, he says, as though reading my fear. It is revelation. The Emperor's silence was never absence, it was invitation. The scarred trooper spits into the ash. You talk too much, Father. He smiles faintly. Faith always does. Then the ground convulses. The promethium ignites in a single breathless bloom of blue-white flame. The shockwave knocks us all backward, heat clawing at our armor, the smell of burning air filling every gap in the mask. I hit the ground hard, vision swimming. The priest's robe catches fire. He doesn't scream. He lifts his arms higher, shouting into the conflagration words I can't understand. For a heartbeat, I think I see something rise from the fire. A silhouette vast and winged, outlined in impossible gold. Then the pressure hits again. Sound without sound. Meaning without words, and the world folds in on itself. When I can see again, the fire is gone. Only the black residue of burned promethium remains, thick as tar. The priest lies at the center, unburned. The troopers kneel beside him, whispering prayers, but his eyes are open, staring upward, pupils wide as if he's seeing stars through the clouds. I stagger toward him. The hum inside me has shifted again, matching his still chest as though sinking to a heartbeat that no longer exists. I kneel beside him, press a gloved hand to his neck. Cold. Yet his lips move barely, forming words that come out as nothing but breath. Light. Beneath the ash. Then nothing. The younger trooper grips my shoulder. He knew this would happen. Said it was the only way. Only way to what? To listen. The hum swells, and for a moment I think it's the wind until I realize it's coming from beneath us. The ground trembles again and cracks begin to form through the burned surface, faint lines of orange light seeping upward like veins of fire. The troopers back away, panic in their movements. I can't. Something holds me still, some instinct that feels both alien and familiar. I reach out and touch the cracked ground. The light flares and I see, not with my eyes, but with something deeper. An image of the manufactorum's foundations stretching into the abyss. Endless tunnels glowing with buried heat. Voices whispering along the metal veins. The whispers form a single phrase. The Emperor's light burns within us still. I rip my hand back, gasping. The cracks close as suddenly as they appeared, the glow fading into darkness. The troopers stare at me like I'm the one who caused it. Maybe I did. The scarred woman lowers her rifle, eyes narrow. Whatever that was, it's over. We need to move before it isn't. I nod, my voice gone. The hum lingers, quiet now, coiled deep inside the chest. I know it's not gone. It's waiting. We leave the crater behind. The sky above flickers with lightning that makes no sound, illuminating the black plumes of smoke rising from what's left of the manufactorum. I glance back once, half expecting to see the priest rise again. He doesn't. Only the ash moves, swirling in slow circles, as if stirred by breath. We walk north toward the ruins of the hive. The smell of promethium follows us all the way. The city rises before us like the skeleton of a god. Towers of plasteel lean inward, their jagged tips kissing beneath a haze of red cloud, each one coated in soot so thick it gleams like glass in the dim light. The wind snakes through the hollow windows, carrying echoes that sound too deliberate to be chance. Somewhere far below, a generatorum sputters in its death throes, its once holy rhythm broken into uneven, choking pulses. We move through the outskirts, the ground littered with shell casings, torn banners, and fragments of devotional icons ground to dust beneath tank treads. The troopers say little. The woman, her name I learn is Varlin, leads with practiced caution, scanning the alleys with a hunter's patience. The young one, Bren, walks beside me, fingers brushing the trigger guard of his rifle like a nervous tick. "What was your regiment?" I ask him quietly. He glances at me, eyes hollow but alert. 87th Vossen. Doesn't matter now. Did you hear it too? Before the crater? He nods once, slow. I thought it was tinnitus. Then it started saying my name. We don't speak after that. There's nothing to say. We reach the first square by nightfall. A cracked statue of St. Drusus looms over it, missing its head, its outstretched arm pointing toward the spire heart of the hive. The base is covered in graffiti, sigils scrawled in ash and blood. Some are old, marks of desperation. Others pulse faintly as if alive. Farland studies them, her expression unreadable. Seen these before, she mutters. On the walls near the front line. Commissar said they were chaos blasphemies. We burned the whole block. Bren kicks at a loose tile. Did it help? She doesn't answer. I approach the base of the statue. The largest mark glows a faint crimson, the shape half familiar. A two-headed eagle distorted, one head stretched into something serpentine. The sight turns my stomach. It's wrong. Not merely heretical, but intimate, like seeing your own face reflected in a corpse's eye. I reach out, drawn by instinct, but Varlan catches my wrist. Don't. The glow fades at her touch, as though cowed by defiance. She lets go, her jaw tight. You feed it attention, it grows. We take shelter inside a nearby chapel. The door is half melted, the symbol of the ecclesiarchy blackened but still visible. Inside, the pews are overturned, the altar shattered, the air thick with the smell of old incense and smoke. Candles flicker faintly on the steps, fresh ones. Someone's been here recently. Varlan signals for silence. We move carefully between the rows, boots crunching on glass and bone. A sound drifts from deeper within, the soft rhythm of chanting. Male voices, low and monotone, reciting in a tongue that scrapes at comprehension. Bren raises his weapon. Cultists. Varlan gestures for him to hold. We edge closer. The chanting grows louder until words begin to emerge through the static of echoes. It's not the cant of chaos I expected. It's high Gothic, though twisted, rearranged. Phrases of the Imperial Creed bent into new shapes. Light within shadow. Shadow within light. He who burns becomes... I step forward before I can stop myself. The air thickens. The hum returns, louder now, resonating through the stone floor. The very walls seem to pulse with it. The others feel it too, I can see it in their eyes. The way their breath falters. We round the corner. A circle of men kneels around the shattered altar, robes soaked in ash, faces hidden behind scraps of flak cloth painted with crude symbols. In the center stands a single figure in scorched priest's garb, arms raised toward a hanging aquila twisted into a downward curve. He turns as we enter, and for a moment I think it's the priest from the crater. But this man's face is intact, calm, radiant, and horribly serene. Welcome, brothers, he says. His voice is a balm, smooth as water. You've walked far to reach the beginning. Varlan steps forward, rifle aimed at his chest. Drop whatever blasphemy you're preaching, Father, or I'll end your sermon here. The priest smiles, lowering his hands slowly. I have no sermon, child. Only truth. Would you shoot a mirror for showing your reflection? He looks at me next. The weight of his gaze pins me in place. You feel it, don't you? The heartbeat beneath the metal. The Emperor's true breath. He is not gone, only reborn within those who remember his pain. Bren's weapon trembles. You're mad. Madness is the word of the blind for what the seeing describe as light, the priest replies softly. Come closer and listen. Varlan tightens her grip. We're done listening, but I take a step forward anyway. I don't know why. The hum surges in my skull, harmonizing with the chanting that hasn't stopped. The priest extends a hand. You already know the silence, he whispers. You've heard it sing. I reach for him, and then the world erupts. A shot cracks, deafening in the small chamber. The priest's head jerks back, a hole burned clean through his brow. He collapses without a sound. Bren lowers his rifle, eyes wide, breathing hard. He was, but the chanting doesn't stop. The kneeling figures continue their litany as though nothing happened. Blood seeps into the cracks between the tiles, forming perfect circles around each of them. The air warps thickens, the temperature dropping to freezing in a single breath. The twisted aquila above the altar begins to shake, chains rattling. Varlin shouts, "Out! Move, we run!" Behind us the chanting rises to a scream, words fracturing into raw sound. I don't look back, but I hear the crash of metal as the aquila falls, and for a heartbeat the hum in my head becomes laughter. We burst into the street, choking on smoke. The chapel explodes behind us, a bloom of red fire that paints the walls in living bloodlight. Bren falls to his knees, retching. Varlin turns to me, face lit by the flames. "You wanted to listen," she says. "Now you'll never stop hearing it." She's right. The hum has changed again. It's no longer beneath my thoughts. It is my thoughts. We fled until the air itself grew too thick to breathe. The streets twisted into labyrinthine corridors of ruin, walls streaked with soot and scripture scrawled in blood, until it became impossible to tell where the hive ended and the undercity began. Every shadow seemed alive, breathing, whispering, watching. The hum in my skull was constant now, a low, pulsing chorus that synchronized with my heartbeat. Every time it wavered, I thought it was dying. Every time it strengthened, I feared what it meant. We found shelter inside an abandoned Vox relay tower. The upper floors had collapsed long ago, leaving only a narrow chamber lit by a single lumen strip flickering in and out of life. Varlin secured the entrance with debris, while Bren sat in the corner, rocking slightly, whispering the catechisms of protection under his breath. I wanted to join him. The words still lived somewhere in me, fossilized and useless, but I couldn't summon them. They felt foreign now, hollow. Outside, distant gunfire rolled through the smog, punctuated by the deeper thuds of orbital bombardments far from here. The city was dying, but not fast enough to escape notice. Varlan crouched beside the lumen, adjusting her weapon with mechanical focus. "We can't stay here long," she said. "If the cult spreads to the relay towers, we're next." "Cult?" I asked. The word felt inadequate. She glanced at me, her face pale under the intermittent light. "What else would you call them? They were priests once. Now they speak with their throats full of warp." Bren looked up from the corner. "They weren't all priests." Varlin frowned. "What?" "The ones chanting," he said. I recognized one. He was from my unit. She froze. "You're sure?" He nodded. "Vasan insignia. Couldn't mistake it." The silence that followed was heavier than the dust in the air. Varlin looked away, her jaw clenched. "Then it's spreading faster than I thought." I wanted to ask what she meant, but before I could, the Vox relay's ancient systems stirred to life. The static started as a whisper, then grew into a wave of noise, flickering across the rusted terminal in the corner. Lines of green text scrolled across the cracked display, too fast to read. Then a voice, fragmented, distorted, pushed through the static. "This is command. Repeat. All loyal regiments converge. Coordinates. Purification protocol." The rest was swallowed by interference. Bren's eyes widened. "Command? Emperor's mercy, someone's alive." Varlin moved to the console, adjusting the dials. "Could be a trap," she muttered. "It could be help," I said. She didn't look up. In this place, those are often the same thing. The static shifted again. For a moment the voice cleared. "Loyal elements, Retribution squads mobilized. Any who resist. Heretic classification confirmed. Then silence. Varlan straightened, her face unreadable. They're purging the city. Bren's voice cracked. We're loyal. Are we? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. The hum in my skull deepened, resonating with the dying echoes of the Vox transmission. Something inside me felt it. The shift, the alignment. Like a gear locking into place in some unseen machine. The lumen strip flickered violently, casting long shadows that moved a fraction slower than we did. Varlan slammed the butt of her rifle against the console. We move at dawn. If command's still transmitting, there'll be an extraction zone. Bren nodded weakly. If they don't shoot us on sight. They might, she said. But staying here isn't survival. It's waiting to rot. She turned to me. You're quiet, Cadian. I'm listening, I said. To what? The silence between the hum. The words left my mouth before I realized I'd spoken them. She frowned as though about to reply, but something outside interrupted. A distant echo, rhythmic and deliberate. Not gunfire, not machinery. Singing. We froze. It came from somewhere. Deep in the city. A choir of human voices, dozens strong, harmonizing in perfect cadence. The sound was hauntingly beautiful. The kind of beauty that only exists on the edge of terror. It rose and fell like the tide, the melody half lost to distance, yet unmistakably precise. Bren stood. Emperor's tears. Do you hear that? Yes, I whispered. Varlan's grip tightened on her weapon. That's no ecclesiarchy hymn. The music grew louder, spreading through the city like a heartbeat carried by the wind. It resonated through the walls, through the floor, through my bones. Every pulse of it matched the hum inside me until the two were indistinguishable. I could almost make out words now. Not Gothic, not Benharic, but something older. A rhythm of blood and devotion. The voices wove together into an impossible harmony, and for one terrible moment I wanted to join them. Varlan must have seen it in my eyes because she stepped between me and the door. Don't, she said sharply. That's how they take you. I swallowed hard, forcing my gaze away from the light spilling through the cracks in the doorway, but deep down a part of me already knew she was wrong. The choir wasn't calling me away. It was calling me home. The sound does not fade. It grows. With every step we take through the shattered hive, the song becomes clearer, its cadence impossible and flawless. It rises from somewhere deep below, echoing through ventilation shafts and broken conduits, turning every metallic surface into a resonant instrument. The walls themselves seem to hum along. We follow the sound not out of choice but inevitability. Each note coils around thought and reason, until moving toward it feels like instinct, like gravity. Varlan leads the way, her rifle raised, but her eyes distant. Bren lags behind, muttering a prayer that collapses into static syllables. When we reach the plaza, the light shifts. There's a red glow bleeding upward from the fractures in the street. The song is loud here, powerful enough to rattle my teeth. The heat from below smells of promethium and blood. At the plaza's center stands a cathedral stripped bare of its sanctity. The once white facade is now blackened, its spires cracked, its stained glass replaced by translucent sheets of flesh stretched taut over broken frames. Shadows move behind them, shapes of people maybe, but their proportions are wrong. Too long, too fluid. This is where it's coming from, Bren whispers. Varlan nods. Then this is where it ends. She takes a step forward, but I catch her arm. Wait. The hum in my chest quickens. The closer we get, the more it feels like it's syncing with the song inside the cathedral. Two melodies weaving into one. They'll hear us, I say. They already do, she replies, and pushes forward. The great doors of the cathedral hang open. Inside, hundreds of candles burn, their flames black instead of gold. The smell is overwhelming, a mix of incense, rust, and the metallic tang of blood that never dries. Figures kneel in rows, their backs bowed in devotion. Each one wears remnants of guard uniforms, different regiments, different worlds, but all bear the same sigil carved into their armor, the inverted aquila, bleeding from its center. At the front stands a dais carved from melted ceramite, and upon it, a choir. Dozens of men and women, their throats cut open and replaced with vox grills grafted crudely into the flesh. Tubes and cables snake from their necks into the dais itself, feeding the sound that fills the cathedral. They sway in perfect unison, mouths open, the mechanical harmony pouring from them like prayer made of metal. Bren retches. Varlin grips her weapon tighter. I can't move. The sound is beautiful. Horrible, yes, but perfect. Every note fits. Every rhythm flows. It's the sound of purpose, of unity. The very thing I've been starving for since the day the Vox fell silent. Varlin raises her rifle, but the air thickens. The sound shifts pitch, just slightly, and something inside me twists. I reach for her arm again, but she wrenches free. Stop, I whisper. It's not just noise. Istrin, it's speaking. The words slip out before I can think. The melody dips again, softer now, intimate. I can almost hear language within it, fragments of words forming just below perception. They speak to something older than the guard, older than humanity. A voice that promises not salvation but understanding. Varlin fires. The shot shatters the moment. One of the choir's throats bursts open, cables snapping, sparks spraying across the dais. The song collapses into a scream. The congregation turns as one. Dozens of eyes, some human, some not, fix on us. Then they begin to sing. The sound is a weapon. It slams into us like a shockwave, rattling the bones, rupturing the air. My vision fractures, the world shattering into shards of red and black. I hit the ground, the taste of copper flooding my mouth. The hum in my chest explodes, rising to meet the choir's scream in perfect pitch. I see Varlan's mouth moving, but her words are lost in the noise. Bren is firing blindly, las bolts cutting through the smoke. The congregation doesn't fall. They advance, walking through the light, their bodies twitching in time with the melody. I crawl toward the dais. I don't know why. Maybe to stop it. Maybe to join it. The sound pulls me onward, whispering through the cracks in my mind. When I reach the base of the platform, the choir pauses. All the vox grills turn toward me, whirring softly as if acknowledging my presence. Then a single voice, clearer than all the others, cuts through the din. Welcome, Cadian. I look up. The figure standing at the center of the dais is tall, draped in tattered robes once belonging to an officer of the Astra Militarum. His armor glints beneath the candlelight, embossed with a distorted aquila that seems to move when you're not looking. His face is hidden behind a respirator fashioned from a broken vox mask. You've heard our hymn, he says. His voice carries through the air like smoke. You understand now. The Emperor's light is not gone, it merely burns from within the wound. I can't speak. He descends the dais, each step leaving prints of black ash. We are the Red Choir, he continues, his tone reverent. We sing the silence between the stars. We sing the death of obedience and the birth of truth. Behind him, the mutilated singers resume their chant, softer now, like the pulse of a dying heart. Varlin shouts something. Bren fires again. But their voices are fading, becoming distant. All I can hear is the song. And for the first time I find myself mouthing the words. The first syllable leaves my lips like blood leaving a wound. It feels wrong, and yet the wrongness is exquisite. An ecstasy that tastes of iron and memory. The sound that escapes me joins the choir's cadence perfectly, like I've always known it. The pitch vibrates behind my eyes. My vision fractures into shards of color and light, all pulsing with the same living rhythm. Varlin's hand snaps across my face. The crack is sharp enough to cut through the music. My teeth rattle. The world reasserts itself in brief, painful clarity. She's shouting something, but her voice is muffled as though I'm underwater. Behind her, Bren is on his knees, weapon forgotten, his face uplifted toward the dais. His mouth is open in silent song. Snap out of it. Varlin's voice pierces the static at last. Her grip on my collar drags me half upright. They've got you, do you hear me? They've got you. The choir's tone deepens. The red glow within the cathedral intensifies, bleeding through the cracks in the stone like magma. The robed figure, the precentor, I realize now, raises his arms. The air itself trembles. Let him hear, the precentor intones. Let him remember. The sound hits like impact. I'm flung backward, the breath crushed out of me. I land near the base of the collapsed altar. The cold stone slick beneath my palms. The air burns with ozone. My head feels full of molten glass, then I see it. The truth they've been singing. The stone beneath the altar isn't stone at all. It's metal. The kind used in the foundations of imperial cathedrals. Only now it's shifting. The engraved Aquila twisting, its twin heads folding inward, merging into one shape. A single eye, endlessly open, staring upward. The sight makes my stomach convulse. I try to look away, but my eyes refuse to obey. The hum within me reaches a fever pitch, matching the note of the choir. Every heartbeat is an echo, every breath a verse. I realize then that the song isn't just a sound. It's a signal, a vox call transmitted not through machines but through flesh, our flesh. I feel it burrowing deeper, rewriting me. Istrin, Varlin again, closer this time. She's dragging Bren by the arm, his expression vacant, the light of the candles reflected in his glassy eyes. We're leaving. The precentor descends from the dais, his movements slow, deliberate, as if gravity itself bends around him. The cables from the choir slither across the floor like veins reaching for us. You cannot leave, he says. There is no outside the song. Varlin fires. The shot takes him in the chest, burning through cloth and flesh. He doesn't fall. Instead, his head tilts back, the wound glowing with the same red light that pulses through the cathedral. When he speaks again, his voice carries not through air but directly into my mind. You cannot kill what has remembered its purpose. The remaining worshippers rise as one. Their movements are puppet-like, jerky but synchronized, hands outstretched as they begin to advance. Varlin tosses a frag. The explosion tears through the front ranks, sending bodies flying. The red light flares brighter, screams layering with the sound of cracking stone and vox distortion. The roof begins to buckle. She grabs my wrist, shouting, "Move!" We sprint through the collapsing nave, Bren stumbling between us. The candles explode one by one, splattering molten wax across the floor. The song doesn't stop, it shifts, changing key, becoming faster, frenzied. I can feel it chasing us, vibrating through the walls, echoing in every piece of metal. The great doors burst open as we slam through them. The night outside is darker than before, the sky heavy with smoke and fire. Behind us, the cathedral implodes in a wave of heat and light, sending fragments of bone and glass raining down. We collapse behind a pile of rubble. For a long time none of us speak. Only the distant thunder of collapsing spires and the echo of that cursed harmony remain. Varlan's breathing is ragged. "They're all mad," she whispers. "Every last one." Bren lifts his head slowly. "Maybe they're not mad," he murmurs. His voice is calm, detached. "Maybe they've just seen what's under the lies." Varlan turns on him. "Don't start," he doesn't answer. His gaze drifts toward the burning cathedral. The red light inside flickers like a dying star. I close my eyes, but the song doesn't fade. It's still there, a memory that isn't memory. And beneath it, faintly, the hum continues. The same note I first heard in the lumen back at camp. It occurs to me that maybe this is what faith feels like once it rots from the inside out. Not absence, but infection. When I open my eyes again, the horizon is glowing. Prometheum fires consume the city, their smoke rising to mingle with the stars. Varlan stares at the destruction. "We can't stay here," she says quietly. "If Command's still purging, they'll level the hive next." Bren doesn't move. "Then where do we go?" She looks at me, waiting for an answer I don't have. The hum pulses once, deep and resonant, as if responding to her question for me. "North," I hear myself say, toward the silence. Neither of them asks what that means. We leave the hive behind at dawn. The fires still burn, orange and red reflected in the endless haze, but the song has faded to a whisper beneath the wind. The road ahead is a ribbon of shattered ferrocrete cutting through dunes of ash, littered with the carcasses of tanks and the bleached bones of soldiers who once believed in salvation. The sky above is the color of iron, thick and low as though the weight of the heavens themselves is pressing down. We march in silence for hours. None of us speak. Bren walks with the glassy calm of a man moving through a dream, eyes fixed on the horizon. Varlan keeps the pace steady, her shoulders squared, jaw tight. She hasn't looked at me once since we left the city. I think she's afraid of what she'll see. I don't blame her. The hum inside me has changed again. It's quieter now. No longer a pulse, but a resonance that moves beneath thought, shaping my perception. Sometimes I think I can still hear the faint echo of the Red Choir's song. Distant, diluted, but alive. It feels like it's waiting for something. We find a convoy wreck halfway along the road. Burnt-out chimeras and munitorum haulers overturned in the dust, their cargo scattered. Varlan orders a sweep. The air inside the vehicles is thick with decay. Flies swarm around half-buried corpses, their uniforms too faded to identify. I search one of the haulers and find a crate of ration bars fused into a single block by heat. I pry a chunk free and divide it between us. It tastes like dust and oil, but it's something. When we finish, Bren points toward the horizon. "There," he says. "At first I see nothing. Then the light shifts and a structure emerges from the ash. A spire of black metal rising from the plain, too smooth to be natural. It looks wrong against the landscape, like a wound that hasn't healed. What is it?" I ask. Varlan squints through the haze. "An old astropathic relay, maybe. Or what's left of one. Could it still work?" She shrugs. "If the machine spirits are merciful." We approach cautiously. The closer we get, the colder the air becomes, the kind of cold that seeps into the bones. The spire is massive. 30 meters high, its base sunk deep into the ash. The walls are covered in scorched sigils, the remnants of purity seals fluttering weakly in the wind. The great vox dish at its crown has collapsed inward, as if something clawed its way out from within. Inside, the relay is hollow. A single lumen flickers weakly above a shattered console. The walls hum faintly with residual power. Varlan moves to inspect the control altar, while Bren drifts toward the center, staring up into the dark like a pilgrim at a shrine. "It's still alive," Varlan mutters. "Barely. I can try to raise command." "Do it," I say. She begins reciting the litany of awakening, fingers moving across the runes. The console sputters, coughing up bursts of static and flickering symbols. Then a sound cuts through the air, low, steady, familiar. The hum. Only this time it's coming from the relay itself. Bren turns toward it, his expression softening into something like awe. Do you hear it? Yes, I whisper. It's him, he says. It has to be. Varlin doesn't answer. She's still working the controls, her movements more frantic now. The static resolves into fragments of sound, words half-formed, voices layered over one another. I lean closer, straining to make them out. Children of dust. Watching still. Throne endures.